everyone, and welcome to the Sustainable Fashion Forum brought to you by LA Textile of the California Market Center and Fashion Dex. Thanks for joining us on day 3 of our Sustainable Fashion panels. We're so excited and delighted to bring to you today a panel on sustainable sourcing. It will be sustainable sourcing and local and place-based and regional sourcing of suppliers and factories. David Prentice of OnPoint Manufacturing, Anna Livermore of V.Mora, Beth Esponnette of Unspun, Diviya Loomba of Eagle Fabrics, and Marta Miller of Lefty Productions. Your co-moderators today, and I'm really excited and grateful for them to be here today, are Tara St. James of Study New York and Daniella Platt of Looking Good Yaya. So Diviya, take it away.
Hi, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Diviya Loomba. I'm Vice President of Eagle Fabrics. We're a fabric manufacturer here in Los Angeles that specializes in knitting, dyeing, finishing, and printing knit fabrics for apparel. We've been established since 1988, and for over 20 years, we've been a pioneer when it comes to developing innovative fabrics, especially with our extensive collection that uses environmentally friendly fibers, such as organic cotton, lensing certified tencel, modal, hemp, and many more. As a second-generation leader of Eagle Fabrics, I strive to put sustainability at the forefront of our business and am passionate in informing designers and founders how it's possible to build their brands with USA manufacturing. We do have a majority of the fibers that we use are the sustainable fibers that I mentioned, and we also have quite a lot of a variety of fabrics that we keep in stock, have low minimums and stock that you can take whatever you need. As well as our primary business model, which is made to order, and we specialize in customizing fabrics so you can have your own signature fabric blend for your fabric. Thank you.
And I'd like to introduce Anna Livermore of V.Mora.
All right, I'm V.Mora. My company's called V.Mora, and we work with fashion designers. We'll do the structural setup of going over budget and finances and timeline and all of those things that you've got to think about before you actually do the sketching and the patterns and the samples. We then will help you with patterns and samples. And when it comes time for manufacturing, align you with a factory to help manage that production for you. And then we'll help with the branding and the social media. So that's V.Mora. I started in 2008, so it's been a long journey and we've seen a lot, and I'm excited to talk about some of those changes today in the panel. Thank you so much for doing this. I'm excited to be on the panel with everyone here. And then these are just some of our clients that we've launched over the years. Some pictures of what they do, what they've done. We've done everything from dog clothes to sports bras to mommy and me. So that's just an example of some of the work. So thank you so much. I'm really, really grateful to be here.
Thanks, Anna. And next, I'm excited to introduce Beth Esponnette of Unspun.
Great, thanks, Andrea. And hi, everyone. Really great to see you this morning. My name is Beth, and my background's in fashion design, and then as it meets manufacturing and other types of product design. And I'm with Unspun. We are a fashion tech company. So we're developing both software and hardware to try to make the industry more inclusive, more sustainable, more intentional. And so our software, what it does is it takes body scans and creates perfect fitting patterns from that. You can see that manifested in our brand. If you go to unspun.io, you can see that you can get custom fit jeans. They're a custom fit, they're also a custom design. So, you get a body scan, you choose options, and then you get your jeans made for you. We also are working on collaborations. So we work with partners like H&M and a few others that we're bringing the same technology to them so that they can have zero inventory and offer custom fit for their customers. And then long term, we're working on some hardware to make it all possible to do that within a few hours. Right now, it takes us a few weeks to produce that garment. So really great to meet you all, and I look forward to this conversation.
So I'm going to jump in here. My name is Tara St. James. I'm one of the co-moderators for today's panel. I'm going to take over from Andrea, and I'm going to introduce myself after the next two panelists just to keep it all cohesive. So David, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
Hey guys, cohesive in 2020. That's a novel approach. I love it. Great to be here. Happy to be a part of this. Love what's going on and what the group is doing. I'm with one of the founders of OnPoint Manufacturing. We are an on-demand clothing manufacturer. We have no minimums and we do a fast turnaround. I say that we have a minimum of one because you have to make a whole dress in order to sell a dress. So on demand, real quick turnaround. Everything is 100% US based. We're trying to preach the sustainability message and try to help this industry out a little bit with all the wanton waste out there. Back to you, Tara.
Thanks, David. Marta, last but certainly not least, if you want to take over, say hi to everyone.
Hi, everybody. My name is Marta, and I am the co-founder of Lefty Production Company. I'm super happy to be here and sitting amongst such great minds. Lefty Production Company is a company that focuses on design, development, marketing, and grading, and getting people's products ready for market. And we also are a factory that manufactures it. Before COVID, we had minimums, really low minimums. Now we're looking at minimums of about 300 pieces. We're really flexible because we do believe in sustainability. But we always tell people when you've outgrown David, you come to us, and we kind of pass people back and forth because our goals and our mission is all aligned. And so we can help develop and then ultimately produce your garment.
Thank you, Marta, and everyone. I'm really looking forward to today's conversation. So like I said, my name's Tara St. James. I have been working in the fashion industry for almost 25 years now. I'm based in New York City. I started out as a designer and product developer, started my own brand called Study New York, which I'll link to in the chat box later. As will everybody else put their contact information, way to reach them and find out more about their work. It will be in the chat towards the end of the conversation. I'm co-hosting today with Daniella Platt. We're gonna be volleying back and forth with some questions, but we're also gonna leave it open to questions from the audience, and there will be a significant portion of time today to have your questions be put to the group. So if you do have a question, try to put it in the Q&A box down there, not in the chat box. That way we'll see it more easily. And I'm gonna hand it over to Daniella to introduce herself. And wait, I didn't really do that for myself yet. I'm sorry, one more second. So in addition to Study New York, I also have a consultancy firm called Resource, where I help emerging designers find more responsible materials and sustainable production. And so I teach a class at FIT on sustainable materials as well. It's all very harmonious and responsible. So I'm gonna pass it over to Daniella now to introduce herself and then ask the first question.
Thank you, guys. Hi, everyone. It's really a delight to see everybody on your screen, our Zoom house. This is our Zoom house. We live here now, and it matters how we decorate and renovate. I really miss everybody so much. I miss your faces in person. So I'm Daniella Platt. I'm known as a cheerleader for all. I'm known for my high energy. For 20 years, I created marketing and sales campaigns for firms and brands that you know, from the apparel news, Hugo Boss, Skechers, Cotton Incorporated, Visa, brands that let you stretch like Lycra. So today, I'm a brand strategist. I like to work with purpose-driven brands, women innovators, entrepreneurs, and creatives like you guys. I work with you guys in 3 ways to help you achieve greatness. So I guide brands from concept to sales, the entire go-to-market strategy, whether you have your idea from the kitchen table I help you take it into the world. In fact, earlier this year, I recorded about 15 workshops so people can get started on it today. You don't even need me. I'm here for you, but you could totally do it on your own. But I really want people to have the tools at their fingertips to be able to achieve. The other thing I do is I help any brand, whether you're not in the business of fashion, but you're thinking, oh, I'd like to add clothing to my yoga studio or to my restaurant. I'm gonna help you with that. And lastly, it's very exciting, but I also teach creatives how to sell. I'm on a mission that nobody should miss an opportunity. So I just launched a book. And it's lost in my green screen. But anyway, I wrote a book. It's called Looking Good, The 10 Commandments to be a Sales Rock Star and Fashion Startup Playbook. It's available on Amazon, and inside you'll find several people on this panel quoted. Tara, you're inspired by it. Fashion Dex is inside. David, you are mentioned inside. Lefty, you are inside as well. So it's super, super, super exciting. I look forward to hearing what everyone's big idea is here. You're welcome to drop it in the chat. And that's who I am, Daniella Platt. My company is called Looking Good, Yeah, Yeah, because you're looking good, you as you are. So without further ado, should we jump into some questions? How's that sound? Okay, so since Marta, I'm gonna go with you first, but everybody can kind of chime in, but I'm going with you first just because you introduced yourself last. That's the strategy
Awesome.
here. It's so good to see you. You're on mute, by the way. So here's the question. So much has happened in the last 7 months. It's like we've been in this storm, everybody's in a different boat. Once things kind of calmed down a little bit, you were able to put new practices in place. You know, once you're really able to reopen for business, what have you implemented? What have you put into place? And where do you see things are going based on these changes that you've put into place?
Thank you so much. Well, this could be a 5-hour-long conversation, but we're gonna keep it short. So the number one thing that I personally have put into place is I came to Texas with my family with 2 suitcases on March 15th, and we are still here. And we don't currently have plans to leave. Had you told me in January that I would run my company remotely, I would have said you were the craziest person on earth. And my company has ran beautifully remotely. And I just am so happy to know that we, as a company, the biggest changes we've made is just really honing in on what the customer experience is, and really letting the customers bond directly with their account manager, and really grow their businesses from there. So we have doubled in size on how many account managers we have, so that the customers have a really intimate connection with their account manager. And so that has been the number one change that COVID has really forced us to do, because for a while we were all working remotely and everything. So we've kind of brought that customer experience a lot more, instead of 3 account managers, we now have 7. So that has been the biggest company change that we have made, so that customers have this really intimate connection with their product, and has allowed me to kind of scale the business. As far as what I see, I want to say there's always a silver lining in everything in life. The silver lining to COVID, in my opinion, is it is igniting this new form of entrepreneurship. We've seen so many and have talked to so many people on the phone that have unfortunately been furloughed or lost their jobs, but they're now kind of taking stock of, it's probably these 69 participants. Some of you in here must be some of these people. They've taken stock of their life and they said, what is it that I really want to do with my life? I now don't have a boss. Who am I and what am I trying to do? And so just this breed of new entrepreneurs has just been really wonderful to see, and has really been the silver lining of COVID, in my opinion.
That's a beautiful story. I love that people are creating and you're seeing new entrepreneurs. Would anybody else, before we jump to the next question, would anybody else like to share what they've been up to over the last 7 months?
We're all about fashion and working in the fashion industry. And a lot of us were together that first week of March out there in LA at the show, and then came back to watch all this hit. Friday night, that first week of March, my business partner and I are discussing, what are we going to do? We've got sewers that need paychecks, and shutting down or furloughing wasn't something we wanted to do. And at that time, all you heard about was masks. So we said, hey, let's make masks and try to help out. So we went through 4 prototypes on Saturday, cut, developed, sewed, got some medical input. Sunday morning, cut the first table of masks. Sunday morning at 9 o'clock, got the first PO for 3,000 masks, and then promptly sold the plan out for a month and a half doing masks. Fashion never died, which is great completely. We still had stuff coming through. It dropped, and you know, masks were going to do this and then drop back down, which they have. The mask makers get in the game and they get caught up, and you know, then gowns came on the table, and we're still doing some gowns, but it's going to do the same thing. The gown folks will get back in the groove as well, and fashion has exploded the last couple of weeks. So we just kind of tried to turn and adopt, keep people going, and we're able to actually not only keep employees employed, continue to hire employees, and continue to offer overtime if they wanted it. So as you say, Marta, you got to find the silver lining. It's there somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happened for us too, I feel. I mean, we never really actually got to close in March because we ended up partnering with our local city mayor, and we were producing masks, and we had thousands of yards of fabric. And so we pivoted part of our manufacturing to make masks at that stage. And so since then it was like no apparel, but only masks for a while. And then it just jumped back into apparel. And, you know, it's been a whirlwind the past couple of months. I think businesses have really needed fabric faster than ever before, especially with not as many imports coming in, and the demand for in-stock fabrics or low minimums, quick manufacturing, all of the things that, you know, brands really pivoted quickly and to make up for lost revenue during closures. And since, you know, for us, thankfully, because we manufacture all of our fabrics here locally, we were in a unique position where we could turn over production quickly and then also keep overproductions in stock, so that growing brands or even well-established brands, we got reached out by brands who were doing so much production overseas, and they were like, well, we have an urgent need to fill, we need to fill our marketplace. And so they needed goods right away. And I think for us, that was kind of the biggest change, but we needed to accommodate to that quick turnaround. And so we spent some time forecasting. We saw what styles were selling really quickly and what was versatile across different customers. And then we started just keeping things in stock. And so I think that's one of the benefits to US manufacturing, is that when you're able to move quick, make tons of raw material as well as garments quickly, and having that ability to access that raw material and the production lines that all of you guys do, I think it's really beneficial for a lot of the brands out there, and that's what they're looking for. So it's really the whole supply chain, I think, worked together the past year in supporting brands, supporting the economy, and supporting this industry.
Thanks, everyone. I'm going to touch on something that Marta mentioned, but it seems to be a common thread for all of you. And this is in particular for David, Marta, and Diviya, but Anna, I feel like you could also jump in here. I'm really sorry, Beth. We'll get to you soon, I promise. But now that you're seeing sort of a different category of designers and people starting brands and really wanting to mobilize because they're coming from different industries, what, if any, common requests or challenges or questions are you getting from them that you feel aren't appropriate for them to be having at this stage when they reach you? What do you think that they should know before getting to you? And I'm not asking this question to call out, but I'm to call them out, because, you know, we love supporting independent designers, and that, I think, is the future of the industry. But where is there a lack of information and education for independent designers? And if you have a resource for them to go find that information before they get to you, what is it?
I think a lot of them it's the homework that needs to be done up front that they haven't. They've had the idea, they've had the design, they've had something in mind, they've had a 9-to-5 job that got in the way of it, and suddenly that has dissipated, and now it's like, wow, maybe it's a blessing in disguise. I can do that. We don't do the front end development. I'm looking for that compliant tech pack, the digitized patterns, the grading, everything. So you need to research your manufacturer and look around and have conversations and find out what the niche is. I mean, Marta does stuff that, you know, some things I don't do. We don't get in the lingerie side, she does. So you need to find out, you know, who does that. And you've got Anna sitting over here who she takes it from that sketch to that finished product. And you've got, Tara, you know this, I refer to you as the queen of sustainability fabrics and dead stock. I mean, do your research, find where the materials are. Eagle Fabric's got great stuff going. You really have to do your homework to try to get to that next step and not just dive in, because you can be doomed. And things like this, man, these talks are just fantastic, and there's so many of them going on. And you know, you tune in, you get the coaching. I know Marta does front end development. Danielle is, if we could ever get Danielle out of her little box and get her to be excited about something, who knows what could, I'm kidding. The cheerleader, the cheerleader, and coaching there. So I think the research on the front end, instead of just jumping in, hey, my cousin knows somebody that makes shirts, you should go work with him.
Yeah, and thanks for that, David. So I work with designers from ground zero, where it is just a sketch. So I'll help them with hand-holding of giving them the templates of what the timeline should look like and where to source the fabrics, and have you thought about the buttons and the interfacings. So I let them know, like people like David, they want to cut and they want to sew, but there's so much more that goes into it prior to that, and that's what I help with. Let's get them ready to the point where they feel confident and they can come and talk to the factories like Marta and David and have the information that you guys need so that they can have a successful production. Because for you guys, it doesn't make sense if they don't know what they don't know. It's hard for you guys to work with them. So that's why I work with the designers to get them to that point where they feel confident, where we can either continue working with them or they can go out on their own, having the knowledge and the information and the vendors and the resources that they need. So it doesn't matter where they're at in the stage of the game. Like I can help them get them to the point where they have everything, because there is quite a bit. You need to think about how much are you going to spend? What can you afford to spend? Who are you selling to? Who's your customer? So all of these things come into play so that you can be successful, and so that factories want to work with you, knowing you're prepared for them.
Yeah, I mean, to add on to that, that's exactly what I think, especially what you were saying, Anna, about it's a little bit about a risk assessment, is that if you don't know your budget and you don't know how many units you're going to make or how many styles or even a rough line sheet of some kind, it's difficult for manufacturers to assess and assist you. Because, for example, if you're someone who's like, I want to just make maybe 100 pieces total, I'm starting a capsule brand and I just want to start small, then, for me on the raw material side, I'm like, okay, well, I want to make sure that I'm not setting you up for an 800-yard minimum. It's got to be something that I produce all the time. It's ready to go. You can take it as you need it. And then same for on the manufacturing side for like Marta and David too, is that, they also need to know the same thing as how many pieces. And so I think if in the beginning stage, you're making some kind of a rough business plan of what is that risk that you're willing to take and dive into your new business, then we also can help and guide you in that process.
So I'm just going to echo what everybody says. I mean, I think this is all such great things. In some of what you're going to do is going to be in the exploratory phase of doing it. I love Makers Row. I think Makers Row does such a wonderful job. And I always like to point people that are just starting out into that, because they also have so many panels, so much constant support. And it's a place where you can kind of see a profile of a factory and you can kind of start to understand the layout of the land a little bit. We're a small community. I know, and hopefully America starts to scale, but there's definitely more of you than there are of us. And so I always tell people, just kind of the basic things, like treat people kindly, be patient with the process. People come to us and, this is something that they're dying to do, but we need to understand, like, how are we going to do it? What's your budget? Where should we help you get the fabric? What are you really trying to do? So I think, yes, that kind of rough business plan idea is just what we like to see, and the transparency with your factory. I always tell people, like, this is a weird marriage, if you will. Like, this is a weird relationship that we have going on. So, if you want to spend 20 grand, like, let us know, because we can advise you properly. If you want to spend 100 grand, maybe we can build something different for you. It's like building a house and not telling your architect what you're trying to build, but saying, I want 6 bedrooms and 3 baths. And then they're like, well, you can't get that done for 100 grand. And then we need to know at the beginning what your goals are. And so people, we always tell people, like, what's your budget? And a lot of times people are like, whoa, but I want to know what your budget is, because I don't want you to spend frivolously, because then it's so sad, because you end up having a 14-piece collection that you can't ultimately, you know, hire a social media person for because you don't have money left. And so there's a really symbiotic relationship towards sales and product, and you need money for both. And so nobody sitting on this panel, or nobody I know in this industry, is looking for you to fail. And so really have these real conversations with people, because it's gonna really make or break your brand.
Yeah, and just to follow up with what you were saying, Marta, I always say, if you run out of money, it doesn't serve anybody. You know, you're not able to follow through with a photo shoot or a website or all those things. So just sitting down and being really clear from the beginning of like, this is what I'm going to spend. And it's empowering too, to say, I can spend X amount of dollars on these patterns. Those invoices will be less scary because you've budgeted for it and you know you have the money, and you can continue to move through the steps because you've thought it all the way through. So yeah, definitely it doesn't benefit anyone if someone runs out of money and you can't see your project out.
It's totally true. You need to know in advance what you have to work with. I'm going to actually throw down some new questions. So let's start. We haven't really heard much from you, Beth, and what you do. I was going through your website and I'm like, this is magical. I have no idea how you can create this one at a time. So I just was hoping you could share a little bit about what requests are you getting, what challenges, what is it that you're hearing from customers, or you're making things one at a time, just like what's been happening, what's been new, what requests, what's surprising you, what's happening in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, thanks for the question. There's so much, and also I'm having a lot of fun listening to all these answers, and it's like inspiring me. I want to start another line now. Okay, so lots of challenges and things that a lot of the other suppliers here and the other partners could probably help you with. So one is turnaround time. So when you purchase something before it exists, it doesn't exist. You have to wait for it to be made, right? And so we've worked with different facilities. Some can turn it around in 6 days. There's a lot of pressure and a little bit more money involved. And mostly we're looking at like the 2 to 3 week time window for a turnaround. So a customer gets a scan, puts in their order, and then 3 weeks later they have their jeans. So for regular customers, that feels like a really long time because they're used to Amazon. For people who understand the industry, they know that's crazy fast to have something uniquely made for them and have it in their hands 3 weeks later. But the good news is that with quarantine and with COVID, Marta was talking about silver linings. One has been that people have slowed down. They've been a lot more thoughtful about what they purchase, and they're willing to wait a little bit more for something that's really special. I think they're confronting how much they have and that they don't need quite as much, and they want to put more into fewer things and like have very special things. So that's been one exciting silver lining. And something else that we're very focused on is how do we meet people where they are? Because we used to have all in person, you scan in person, you purchase in person, we take you through the whole experience, and now it's fully remote. So it's a completely different thing. So you're trying to scan at home and then design a pair of jeans essentially at home. And so that's been a unique experience for us. And so at the end of the event, I'm going to put some information in the chat box. So if anyone wants to try out the experience, I'm going to send a little discount code because we're kind of in beta testing right now. So yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. It's just remarkable what you're doing. What about anybody else want to chime in there? Anybody else getting any unique special requests? Who haven't we? Marta, what requests have you been getting? What has been surprising you?
So I'm just gonna talk about this for 1 second. So Lefty kind of did a Lefty gift to the community for COVID, which I think really plays in with sustainability and with just what we were seeing as people's budgets. You know, we used to have people that were starting a line and they had, you know, 80, 100 grand to spend. Now we're seeing people that start a line and they really have $10,000 to spend. And so we wanted to kind of figure out how we could possibly help those people. So during our time, you know, working remotely and when fashion was slower, as David said and Diviya said, you know, there was 2 months where nobody was ordering dresses or anything. And so, you know, fashion kind of slowed down. We focused on PPE, but like many other companies, I didn't want to let go of my pattern maker and let go of, you know, my sample makers and all of these other people. So what we did is we took this opportunity of quiet and calm, and we built patterns that are already made, tech packs that are marked and graded, that you can shop on our site. And so, you know, we just kept getting people that wanted the same string bikini or the same, you know, the same hoodie and jogger. And, you know, we don't want to have to charge them, each of them. So what we did was, you know, there's a hoodie and jogger. It's fitted. It's been fitted for you. We always suggest, like, definitely sew it before producing it, to make sure it fits with your fabric, because every fabric holds a different characteristic. But we have ready-made patterns, which I really did because I feel like people's budgets were just really challenged during this time. And so this kind of allows people to, you know, start with a smaller budget, you know, and especially for the people that, you know, can sew at home or want to bring it to OnPoint Manufacturing and want to kind of take some baby steps first. I think this is a really great way.
You know, one of the positive things out of this is the amount of conversations that I've been having with brands and some bigger brands that we've been manufacturing in Bangladesh, or we've been working with China, or we've been here or there. We want to try to figure out how to come back to manufacturing in the US. And that has been just, I mean, a very relevant, noticeable trend over the last couple of months. And the longer we seem to be, you know, trying to figure all this stuff out, the more the conversations become almost a daily basis. Yeah, we're established. We've got a line. It's a great brand. How do we get back to America? How do we come to America? Maybe we never manufactured here, but just some great conversations. People realizing what we've been saying, the traditional model's broke. I mean, there's better ways now to do things. So it's exciting to see these folks, you know, turning around and looking back to the States to do stuff.
I always want to encourage artists to really create their craft. And I want to be able to have everybody, you know, showcase your vision. But now we have 65 million people are home. Have the requests come in that are just different, or they're like are people just asking for different things? I mean, Marta, I love what you're offering in terms of like helping people fast track their way to market. Are there requests coming in that are a little just something that you wouldn't have expected to service people now that they're different? Because I want artists to be able to create.
We've seen a ton of trends coming where it's athleisure wear. A lot of legging quotes, a lot of t-shirt quotes, not so many ball gowns of late.
Yeah, I call
Definitely.
it, I'm going to pass it back to Tara. I just call it like the Zoom to Peloton wardrobe. You know, it's like your life all in one.
Yeah, and I
Tara, you're up.
Leisure, there's also been a big shift, I think, in the creativity side because of the lack of supply on certain things. There's this general willingness to think out of the box. And I think that's actually leaning in towards a lot of really great positive things. For example, like for us, we have always had overproductions in stock, and it's always been a challenge for, I think, new designers to, usually the normal process is to create a line sheet and then find fabric, raw material, and then actually make the garment. But I've been seeing lately is that, you know, people are more willing to, let's see what you have and I will design into the fabric. So that there's just this, yes, it's another form of being creative as a designer, and it is a little bit more challenging because that's usually not how designers are thinking in the process. But I think that has shifted, and we're seeing is that, you know, people are willing to kind of take what you can get, but there is still an extensive amount of raw material that's out there. And it's just about kind of reframing how you're doing this process. And actually, I've seen that some designers have told me now is like, it actually ended up being a more unique way where they're able to offer more variety of products on their e-commerce pages. They're offering smaller quantities and more limited edition like products, which is actually increasing sales because consumers want to buy it faster because they don't want to make sure that it runs out. So in turn, revenue generation is actually speeding up. And so it really is the new way of thinking and being creative is actually benefiting in the long run.
Sorry, go ahead, Marta.
No. You go ahead.
I think you're going to want to jump in on this one anyway, in this next question. We have actually two very similar questions from audience members that the first one is from Jennifer. I'm not entirely sure I want to hear the answer to this one, but I'm going to put it forth to the group anyway because it's compelling. The question is, are you finding that your clients are interested in meaningful sustainability, or are they just looking to greenwash and put sustainability out in their marketing campaigns? I think you all know my opinion on that one, but I would like to hear from your point of view. And then from Kanika, I hope I have said your name correctly. In what ways can we actually get people interested in investing in and buying sustainable fabric and clothing? So that's for all of you. And Beth, I think you sort of touched on this when you were talking about being patient and waiting for production. And I guess, David, you're in the same place where your clients are not shipping right away. So you could take both of those questions, or just the latter, or just the former. I'll leave it up to you.
Yeah, I'll jump in on the last question. I'm seeing a good trend of customers. It's really, really light right now, but Ask It just last week put out a receipt of, this is like our impact receipt, and this is the environmental impact, not only the cost of the garment. At the very bottom, they included cost per wear. And I'm just really hopeful that cost per wear will become a metric in people thinking about how much they should spend on something. Because if you're spending on the cheap stuff, the thought would be that, the cheaper it is, probably the cheaper it is per wear. But really it's the opposite. You can buy something that's $20 and it's going to be $10 per wear because you wear it a couple times. Whereas, you put a lot of thought into, this is a very versatile garment. It's made super well, high quality, and then it's in the cents per wear, and it's something that's very meaningful and it doesn't take up space. So that's a trend that I'm feeling very hopeful about right now.
Beth, I'm so glad you brought this up, because this is something that my mother actually taught me when I was really young. And part of me thinks it might have been just as an excuse to buy more expensive clothing on her part, but she's absolutely right. Would you mind just breaking down cost per wear for everybody who may not understand what that means and how the mathematics of it work?
Oh yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, and I love that your mom, wow, she's ahead of her time.
She's awesome. Yeah, she's awesome.
That's great. Yeah, so it's very simple. How much did you spend on your garment, and how many times will you wear it? Divide it, and the number is the cost per wear. So if you're spending $100 on something and you wear it 100 times and then you decide it's out of style or you're done with it, it's $1 per wear. We're really aiming to get into the 10-cent range per wear, even though we're selling $200 jeans. Like, that's how much we want people to wear their jeans.
I love that. I do think my husband would probably agree that it's a very good excuse for me to own a Gucci bag over maybe a bag I'm not as in love with. But no, I think that my thoughts on this, well, I want to say, look, I just want to address, like, if some people want to throw sustainability as part of marketing, I think pretty quickly their audience is going to see through them. There needs to be more about being sustainable for, I personally, my clients that really are interested in sustainability, that message is in, it's so ingrained in them. It's so in the fabric of who they are that it's in every Instagram story. It's such a part of what they're doing. Like what Beth is doing, you'll quickly know a phony if you see one. It's just not, so don't worry so much about it. But if somebody really cares about it, it's in them. So I do want to just comment on that, because it's hard to do. And so the people that are doing it should really get the credit for it. I do also always tell my clients that being perfectly sustainable is very hard. It's okay to be 40% sustainable. It's okay. at least you're doing something. So I just we shouldn't discourage people. You know, if somebody wants to, you know, like when I make a bathing suit, like, you know, I try to get people to use full flex elastic because it's made out of rubber, it's from trees, it has a little bit more of a sustainable component to it. So we, you know, we educate and we push, but sometimes a garment might need something on it that, you know, like a metal clip or something that might not have a sustainable component to it. But I don't want people to not buy the fabric that could have done that because, okay, well, now my garment's not sustainable because I used the metal clip. Like still do what you can to be sustainable, even if you can't be 100% sustainable. And so I always think that message is important because it really does, I feel like, get overwhelming when you start to think about it. Like, even if you're just gonna have a no issue bag and at least do that, like that's a very easy thing to do. At least go that mile, you know? So don't not do anything because one part of your garment isn't sustainable and then you just say, okay, I'm over it. I'm just gonna not do anything. So I think that's a really important message. And then as far as, you know, COVID, you know, we were seeing this train crash, as I like to call it, with, you know, people kind of getting over maybe the H&Ms and Zara and fast fashion. And then COVID caused a lot of those stores to struggle and shut down for months because the malls have been closed. And so with that, I think the consumer is like, wow, I'd way rather buy this cool tie-dye t-shirt from this like stay-at-home mom that's tie-dyeing in her garage. Like, that's fun. And people are now more connected online. And so there's something about you guys in the audience that you can connect to your audience in a much different, more meaningful way than H&M and Gap can. It's just, it is what it is. You can let them be a part of your story. You can let them watch you tie-dye. You can let them into who you are, and that drives sales a lot. And so I think that this is the best time personally, because so many people are online looking at their Instagram more than ever, shopping online. So this is like the best time to really aggregate a community. And some of our clients have seen incredible growth during this time. So I just think that it's because other people have suffered, the people that have gained have actually been the individual kind of entrepreneurs.
It's like so many other things in life or business. It's you have to take step one before you can take step 2, 3, and 4. You know, our mantra is sell one, make one, ship one, repeat. We don't need 500 yards of fabric. It takes 2 yards of fabric to make a dress. It opens up all of that dead stock that's out there that's not being used. And we've actually worked with clients, our clients internally. Client A has fabric that they're wanting to phase out of. Do you know if any of your other clients would be interested in it? So not only have we had clients bring in dead stock to keep it from being in one of those dump trucks that's burned or landfilled every second of every day, but then when they're wanting to move on to something else, we internally are shopping their fabric with other clients. Hey, we've got this such and such, we got so many yards, would you be interested in it? And like, oh my gosh, that's perfect. We could use that for this next piece. So not only from bringing it on the outside, but even internally, we're trying to, you know, keep that whole sustainability push going.
And we definitely need a lot more of that in the industry, that communication, that collaboration. And I'm just going to jump in here. I believe, Amanda, you have a question for someone on the panel. Did you want to?
It's kind of specific. Good morning. Thank you. I'm looking specifically for sustainable denim options in Los Angeles, and also if anyone has any sources for eco laundries here in LA. I'm looking to make some jeans with a client of mine, and we want it to be sustainable, and understanding all the issues around denim, and there's so many, looking for some kind of sustainable option, either a mill or something. If anybody has any suggestions, that would be great.
We've had a lot of luck with Fashion Dex's like books and things. Just plugging that for them here. We've produced in San Francisco and other parts of the world. And we looked in LA for a while. We didn't because our office is not there, but LA has an amazing denim scene and overall production. So I would recommend picking up one of their sourcing and production books.
Anyone else have any suggestions for denim or wash?
Yeah, I mean, I'm blanking on the name right now. I have to look it up. I think it's called Eco Wash. I did a tour, a whole manufacturing plant, but in Los Angeles, there's just so many resources. Everyone here can sidebar with you about them, but there are a lot. And Los Angeles has always been known as the kind of the denim capital of the world. So you're in the right space. One great resource is always the Apparel News. I was there for over a decade working there. And that's just a great place. There's always a lot of good resources mentioned in there. You can always check on with the Kingpins as well. That's a denim only trade show that's specifically for the industry. So that would be a really good resource for you in terms of denim. And I would also, I was just going to say also check with I would also check with Project. You know, some of the manufacturers at Project would be a really good resource because that's a very heavy denim focused trade show. So I have a specific company for you though, so we'll sidebar afterwards and I'll give you that recommendation.
I'm gonna actually shout out to Houston Textiles. They're not in LA, they're in Northern California, but it's close enough in this day and age. Yeah, so if you want a really American made with American organic cotton, I think your best option would be Houston Textiles. I just put it in the chat box. I didn't put a link, but if you can't find them, just reach out to me and I'll send you a contact info for them.
Thank you very much.
I'm a big fan.
So we have about 10 minutes left. Tara, do you want to just ask some more questions from the chat, or should we do a quick fire question for everybody on the group? 1 minute.
I think maybe do one quick fire. Let me see. So I'm just going to do a quick run through of the Q&As. Any questions that don't get answered during this chat, we're gonna save them and try to tackle them. So if they're really specific questions, like I see your question about the towel line and silks and laces, those are super specific. So we're gonna try to tackle those offline after the chat. So don't worry if we don't get to them now. I have one final question for the group, but maybe if you want to do a quick fire, Daniella, let's do that now. And then while we're doing that, if all of the panelists could drop in their contact information, once again, if you haven't done it, into the chat box so that all the audience could reach out to you, either where to follow you online or how to contact you, whatever contact you want to put out.
Well, I will just start. I'll just do a quick fire. Anna, I'll start with you. You talk a lot on your website about influencer marketing, social media. If you can do it in like a minute, what is a really good strategy for designers to appropriately infuse their sustainable message in an organic, authentic way in their social feeds? Yeah, I always, again, with what Marta says, like pick what's important to you and really highlight that, because it is going to be really difficult to have everything sustainable, from your dyes to your fabrics to your clips to your elastics. But if you pick what's important and really highlight that on your social media. And I also wanted to, and more of the silver lining about social media is the bar's been lowered a bit in regards to, you don't have to have a full-blown photo shoot and spend $10,000. People were forced into having a photo shoot. Some of those designers that I had on my slides, that's like my husband used the iPhone in my front yard, and these are the photos I came up with. So everyone's been kind of forced into these more socially distanced, more responsible, less produced photo shoots. So that's really great. But just being authentic and creating content is way more important than having that perfect photo and that perfect written message. Like, I just want them to push to be themselves, to write the stories, to write the content, and to stay consistent in posting. Like, the fear of having to have everything perfect, preventing them from posting anything at all, doesn't help anyone. So I just like them to really stay true to themselves. And, you know, my experience of the people that are being sustainable is because they actually care. It's not because they're trying to sell the word sustainable. All of my clients actually care about sustainability.
and in some way, shape, or form are being sustainable in how they're launching, whether it's the packaging or the fabrics or the dyes or the factories they're working with. So just stay true to yourself and consistently put out content, even if it's not going to be perfect. Creating, you know, having your friends, having your customers take photos of them in your garments and tagging. But yeah, I hope that answers your questions. It's more so about quantity over quality when it comes to your social media, and not being too afraid to have it perfect so you don't post anything at all. But yeah, just being genuine and authentic, and whatever your sustainable message is, being sure to highlight that however you can onto your social media.
Okay. Would anybody else like to add into that? I have some other questions. Has there been, sorry.
I wanted to add on to what Anna was mentioning and kind of echo a little bit, where sustainability is really a spectrum. It's it can be, and it really just depends on preference of the brand and you as an individual. And yes, it's true. Every brand that has set through for us is because they're genuinely passionate about it. And it may not be that they can also afford it. And that's okay, because even if prices are higher, there are other ways to be sustainable. You can use dead stock fabric instead of it going, for us, like, we don't throw any fabric away because it's just going to go to the landfill. And for us, it's more beneficial for another brand's, you know, color that they didn't like, for example, is another brand's treasure. And I think it's just really important to think about that. It's not necessarily just the yarns that you're using, whether it's like organic cotton or recycled cotton, but it's maybe you're using something that already exists, because the best way to affect this environment in the lowest impact is using something that already is there versus making something new. So if brands can remember that, and especially startup brands, there's thousands and millions of yards and in the market that is available, and you will definitely find something. And it's about building your story and educating your customers about what you're doing and what your practices are and why, and you showing that transparency about the effort that you've taken is what is going to attract your consumers in the long run. And that's where that loyalty is built, because the consumers will know and believe you as a person as well as a brand.
Well, I tell everybody, before you buy anything, just ask yourself, does it make you dance? Like, are you going to see this in your wardrobe? Because if you have it, and if you have it in your wardrobe and you love it and it makes you dance, you're keeping it for life. And what could be more sustainable than having something that you love, that's like your best friend in your closet that you get to hang out with forever? So put on those embellishments, be true to your art, and just like let people wear it. That's at least what I tell people on kind of a consumer level when I talk to, just dress like a VIP and do things that you love. And I hope designers really create what you love and that people really resonate with your message.
Can we actually, Daniella, I really want to use that as a jumping off point for the final comment from everybody, because I think that's a perfect way to segue into goodbyes. But I'm going to put this to everybody as like quick fire answer, under a minute each. What is making you dance or really excited about the industry right now? And we can start anywhere, whoever's ready. David, you're ready. You just unmuted.
I'm ready. Let's do it. Making one and shipping one, not putting stuff in warehouses or landfills.
I too would have similar, producing less and being more mindful about what you're making, and the pop-up shop or the pop-up sale of being able to sell a garment before you produce a garment, so you don't have to create 1,000 units and then have to sit and try and sell them backwards. So we're able to flip and sell for a week and then produce, where the customer is more open to waiting, and the factories like David are working with designers like that. It's really exciting, and it's been a long time coming.
Mine is just that you can do this. You can do building a brand in the US. I mean, with this amazing panel here today, I'm sure you can see that the resources are there. We're a small, tight-knit community, and we are here to support you. And don't give up, because the US can give you what you need.
I'm excited that the small MOQs are allowing us to be more inclusive and create things for every single person. So there will be no sizes anymore, and everyone will feel better about themselves.
So I came here March 15th with 2 suitcases and 4 people. So I have never in my life been challenged to really make sure that I love everything that I own. Everything else is in a storage unit in Los Angeles. And so just as a person, it's been like a really interesting challenge. Everything new I've bought here, I love that. It did make me dance, and I've worn the heck out of it. And so I really think sustainability is a long time coming. I've been passionate about it for a really long time. But I think that COVID has kind of taught us to take stock of what matters in our lives, whether it's spending hours and hours and hours with our kids and being a teacher, or whether, just really cherishing a marriage or whatever. And it really has kind of, I think, shaken everybody to their core and made people realize like what's really important in life is, family and everything that, I think we were moving in a really gross direction of consumerism. And I think that this kind of shook us to a place that maybe we needed to be shaken into.
Okay, so I think I'm going to go last here. I think we got everybody, but I'm really excited that there are conferences like this and groups like this who are sharing information, and we have a brand and textile suppliers and manufacturers who are all very open about their resources and what they're doing, because 20 years ago the fashion industry was not at all this. It was very secretive, it was very protective, and it was just not sustainable. So to me, this is exactly the direction that the industry needs going forward. So I'm going to pass it back to Fashion Index and say a big thank you for organizing these kinds of things. And thank you to all of the panelists. We really appreciated your honest, open conversation, dialogue, and we look forward to seeing you all soon, hopefully in person one of these days.
Thank you so much, Tara. And I want to thank all the attendees for your so many questions. They were wonderful. We apologize if time does not permit to get to all of them, but in these last 2 minutes while I talk and share slides, please feel free to answer any unanswered questions. And thank you. Sourcing domestically and using place-based thinking is so important to lower transportation impacts and really, really develop local areas. So I'm so excited, and I want to thank Tara and Daniella and Anna and David and Marta and Beth, I don't know where you went, and Diviya for joining us today. And also I want to thank the team at LA Textile and at California Market Center for having us these last 3 days at the Sustainable Fashion Forum Conversations. And thank you all, and please reach out to all the panelists so you can continue sourcing with all of them. And thank you, LA Textile, and visit fashiondex.com. We have 2 new books. I believe they're both in hard copy, but maybe online too. But we're really excited for coming out with a follow-up on standard body measurements for apparel design and production if you're having fit issues, as well as a great book on costing for sustainability. And then join us. I know one of the questions in the chat box were, are there any more conversations on sourcing? And we have one on material sustainability and how to be designing and choosing materials that are non-toxic and really work towards circularity. And that is next week on Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific and 1 p.m. Eastern Time with Eco Life Yarns, Fashion Forward, Eco Bags, Cotton Incorporated, and Gap, and moderated excitedly by California Apparel News' Dorothy Crouch and co-moderated by Patina Hobson. So thank you so much again for joining us, and we wish you all a wonderful and sustainable weekend. Thank you.